Well, thanks for joining, everybody. My name is Chaz Woodstock. I will be leading our workshop today. This is the second of three workshops focused on our event registration module. On Thursday this week, we looked specifically at calendars and calendar events and how, and those are really going to flow into what we're talking about today. Today, we're going to be focused on the basics of creating a event registration workflow. And then this Thursday, we're going to be talking about more of the advanced features that you'll want to know about as well. So we will break that into two sessions. I recommend encourage you to ask any questions along the way, things that you're wondering about, scenarios that you know your school will want to use for event registration. So don't hesitate to put those in the chat or even come off mute. And then if you have questions between these sessions, you should have make sure you're able to hear me. Sorry, it looks like there's something going on with my computer. Give me 1 second. Pardon me, having just a technical difficulty here. Yeah, bear with me. It's just going to take a minute to come back. I think you're still hearing me, so I will finish my thought there. Just the last part preamble here. That you should all have a case in the Veracross community where you can put school-specific questions, as they occur to you between sessions. Well, that was fun. Hope everyone is still with us. Sorry about that. But I think we're back and we're ready to go. So where we're going to go now, I am going to take you through a event sign up workshop. Sorry, event sign up workflow. Just to point out what we're going to be building together. And then, like our other workshops, we are going to talk sort of step by step so you know what to do when you're ready to start building these. So let me share my screen. So you have a sense of what we're doing. So what you have here, this is the online workflow for signing up for Veracross group events. And this is our focus of today and Thursday is going to be how do you build this workflow? How do you set up the features and the signups the way that you want to? And obviously, how do you hook them into the events so that you're tracking things like attendance or some of the other things that you might want to do. And so what you can see here is that the event registration workflow is set up into a few pages. The first page is sign up. You can see here, this one is for a school play, and you have individual event signups. And each one of these has a event in Veracross, similar to what we were setting up on Thursday, where you have a name and a time and a date and a few things, and then you get them or you put them on the front page of an event registration. so that folks can sign up for one or more. And maybe you only need one. Maybe it's all about signing up for a single event. In this particular case, there's a bunch, and you're tying all of those in to that workflow. You can see here in this example, this is about selling tickets and there are prices. You can use this workflow to take payment. And that makes a lot of sense for something that might have tickets with different prices. But of course, you can do some pretty fun things with this beyond just beyond tickets. It might be a fee to a lunch. It might be something having to do with an alumni golf tournament, which is what we'll look at on Thursday of this week. Once you choose one of these, again, this is just to give you a sense of what we're going to walk through and build here in a minute. Once you choose a ticket, the person that you're going through that is on this event registration, they choose the event, they continue on. Then you get to the point where they sign up. And event registration does support both guest registration, which is going to put a person record into the Veracross database. Or if the people registering are the constituencies that you have at your school that have Veracross username and passwords, you can use this as well. You can have them sign in here, and then it doesn't need to actually put in a new person because it associates their registration with the existing person record. And so that would definitely apply to your staff and faculty, your parents, even students, for signing up. I'm going to go ahead and just put in a guest for the moment. Just put in a few things here, test. This third section, and we're not going to really do a whole lot with this today, we will get more into this on Thursday, is that you can collect information as part of an event registration. So common examples of that are capturing dietary needs or capturing whether somebody wants to volunteer. If it's an event, some sort of parent event, and maybe you're offering, asking folks, would you like to volunteer? Maybe it's collecting certain needs, other needs that you have based on that event. But you can essentially collect data here and then either view that directly in Veracross or even export it to Excel so that you could give it to somebody else. So for instance, if you were collecting t-shirt size as part of an event, and you were collecting it on this page, you might just export the t-shirt size data and send it to, whoever's managing the t-shirt orders and so on. After you've collected information, you get to the section where you can pay. You pay now. There is the ability, we'll see this on Thursday, to take a donation, which is very common for something like an alumni event, allowing folks to not only sign up, but if they want to donate, you can do that too. So, and then the last page is really just thanking them for their registration. So pretty straightforward process, right? Like it's 3 or 4 pages. Each one has its place. And so what I'd like to do now is we're going to walk step by step, and we're going to use these settings. So I'm not making stuff up on the fly, keep it efficient for us and for you. We're going to recreate this. We're going to recreate this. And you'll see the steps to do so in Axiom. So let's go back to Axiom for a moment. I'm going to go here to main page so we can start in Axiom. So if you're logged into Axiom here, and you want to create an event registration workflow, you do that from the same homepage we were at on Tuesday, which is to say the calendars homepage. So you can see I use the Launchpad up here on the upper left, and then click on calendars. And then in the lower left-hand side, is where you can get to any of your existing event registration workflows. I also want to point out that if you might not create these every day, if you need to come back and get a refresher on what we're going to go through, especially today, sort of the beginner to intermediate steps, you can get those right here in the Quick Start Guide. If you click this, you should see this on your own calendar's homepage. You should see this Quick Start, and it will actually take you through the steps that we're about to cover today. So just remember, you have that easy guide as a reminder when you need it. When you're starting from fresh, when you're starting from square one, Then you're going to climb up to the top of this page. You're going to hover over Add, and you're going to click on this Published Forms. Published Forms. This is the starting point for a brand new event registration workflow, which looks like this. So I clicked that. You can see this here. And I'm going to give it, for my first steps, I'm going to give it 2 or 3 things. I'm going to give it a name. I need to do that. This is more for me internally, or for you internally. Going to give it a name, Spring Musical. I also, if I don't add a registration form URL, it'll just add an ID. That's fine too, but I recommend, so that it's a little bit more recognizable for the people signing up. By the way, it still has an ID, but it can be helpful. So if I do something like Spring Musical, note that because this is a URL, this is going to be part of the actual URL that you will put on your website or your Veracross portal. You'll send it out an email. For folks to actually do the sign up, this will show up there, and I'll see that in a second. So I'm choosing a registration form. And then the other thing I need to determine is who's signing up. Public only assumes that every person signing up is not going to have a Veracross user account, which also means that everyone signing up for your event is going to get a new person record in Veracross. You definitely want to avoid that for data cleanliness, and just to reduce sort of data work that you have to do, or somebody at your school has to do. You definitely want to avoid that if the people signing up have Veracross username and passwords. So you can see, if you go to this drop down, you can select a few that are specific to Veracross sign up, like they have an account. So that would be things like Veracross user only. Maybe this is only for parents, so we're going to use Veracross user only. Veracross and public user is what we saw a second ago, which gives both. So you're encouraging folks to have a user account to use that, but if they don't, because maybe it's a combination of families and then also community members who won't have like a parent account or a student account or something like that, you can use the public and Veracross user. I'll call this Veracross parent student we'll actually look at on Thursday, but just so you know what it is, it's basically parents signing up for their kids, as opposed to just the way we saw it, which is, you, the person logging in, is like, well, how many tickets do you want? Even if you might get 4 tickets and give one of them to your kids, this one here, Veracross parent student, is explicitly about parents signing up for their students. All right, I'm going to choose this public and Veracross user. I'm also going to, I'm going to leave it as draft for now. I'm going to leave it as draft, and I'm going to hit add. So I just did a few items there, just a few things initially. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do two other easy items. I'm going to choose whether there needs to be a security category or not. By the way, there's really only 3 options: standard, admission, development. And the idea there is that there might be cases where you're using this event registration workflow specifically for admissions or specifically for your advancement team, your development team. And because of that, and because of maybe some of the information they're gathering, you just want it to be associated and only available to that admission security role or that development security role. And so that's what these two. I'm going to leave this as standard for Spring Musical. And then the other really quick thing I'm going to do is choose whether there's payment. You can see there's a lot of options here. My a couple best practices, I guess, is what to say here, is so if you choose credit card, if you choose credit card ACH, if you have a payment gateway set up in Veracross at all, they'll be able to use the credit card and ACH. If you use VC Pay, not only will they be able to like put in a credit card, but they can also use their wallet. So they'll just say, use the card you have on file and make the payment. So it's even easier for them if you have that set up. This later assumes that you are doing something to capture the money later. This is not, at this time, this does not immediately put this, say if you use Veracross student billing, it does not immediately move over to the invoice. We hope to build that eventually. What this is assuming at the moment is if you're choosing later, um, later essentially means like, you're capturing the money at the door, something like that. And it will tell you who has paid and who hasn't. So you'll know who needs to pay later. I just want to, in terms of best practice there, it really is assuming that you're capturing it like sort of, if you think of a musical, at the door, cash, that type of thing. All right, I'm going to just put it as credit card for now. All right. Now, after I've done this, after I've added a few of those high level items, this doesn't work or doesn't really start to work until I actually add an event, at least one event as the thing that is being signed up for. And so if you think back, I think most everyone here recognize most of these names, most of your names. If you think back to Thursday, that's where you're starting, right? You need to have an event or more actually in Veracross to then tie them into this event registration form. I'm going to go ahead and use the ones that we saw here. I know they're in the system. The way I can do this is right down here. I can say add record, and then I can do a search on event. I'm going to go ahead and use the percent sign as my wild card because I don't know if it says like the Wicked Musical or Wicked Musical or, whatever it is. So I'm just going to put a wild card and then to Wicked, do a search, and I can see them there, which is good because it looks like it includes the actual time as part of the description. So if I had just put Wicked, it wouldn't have found it. That's why this can be this wild card, if you don't know, can be so helpful. And then I'm going to select a couple of these. So I'm going to select one, do another. I'm going to do another 6 to 9. All right, so I'm adding 2. You can choose the order, which, obviously that would make sense, right? You'd want the earlier ones at the top or whatever makes most sense for you. So I'm going to add a sort key. And then I'm going to choose an action type. And remember, our goal here is for me to show you how the steps to create, in a general fashion, what we were seeing together. So that was a ticket type. So it's not a checkbox. It's not just, yep, I'm signed up. It's ticket types. So I'm going to do a multi-ticket because you'll remember in our example here, each one of these events actually had multiple different types of tickets. So I'm adding multi-ticket as the option, and then I'm going to hit update. If you choose something else, if you choose checkbox, that's truly just, yes, I want to sign up or not. And quantity is just a quantity box where they can type in the quantity. So you do have these 3 options. Multi-date consolidated, we'll talk briefly about on Thursday. It's used in some pretty specific cases. So we're going to use multi-ticket. Now let's see where we're at, because at this point, I want to draw your attention back to this up here. This up here is the URL that you are going to use to ask people to sign up. So this is the URL if you're putting it in the Veracross portal on a button. This is the URL if you're going to just write something in Google, your Gmail, and you're just going to send it out to a set of people. You're going to include this URL. This is the URL that you might put on your website. Advertising the spring musical. And so if I click on it, a couple things to point out. First of all, you can see up in the URL, if I hadn't put those words spring musical, it would have just said ID 50. I think it's helpful to have some name. It just sort of, again, it's if they happen to see the URL at the top, it just seems more like, oh yeah, I'm at the right URL. We haven't done anything with branding. We'll get there in a second. But you also can see that essentially what we have is, with not very much detail yet, we have the 2 events that we've hooked up, ready to go. We haven't done anything to set up the tickets. We'll be going there here in a bit. But you can see that at least it knows about this. It knows about this part of the process, or, it knows that we've done this. And the thing that I like to call out, just in terms of how quickly, once you feel comfortable, once you've done this a few times, how comfortable and how quickly you'll do this, because I've been moving very slowly because you're seeing this for the first time. But if you feel comfortable and you generally know what things want to do, you can have an event registration up and running in minutes. So let's go back. Let's keep going. So just again to call out, this is your URL. This is your URL where people can sign up. All right, next. We need to do a little bit of branding because right now it just has the Veracross default event registration branding, not good enough. So let's fix it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this design section and I'm going to put in, I'm actually going to use the same things we have over here. And you'll see that the banner image and the header image can be URLs. Now you have to host these somewhere. And in most cases, schools will host these on their website with a publicly accessible URL, like other pictures of things they put on their website. And so I'm going to do a copy paste. I'm going to grab the two images that I have hosted, come back here, put that in banner, header. Now, before I do this, let's talk about which is which. So banner is this little thing here. Header is the whole background of the header. So you can see we have two things going on here, and we're going to put in those same items. If I click this, and then I come back and I refresh this one, you can see that I've just added that in there. Now, if I just wanted the school name, I could remove the header. Oh, maybe I have it backwards. We will see, won't we? Ah, I did have it backwards. Sorry. So the header, the header is this, and the banner is this. Sorry about that. Set it backwards. But in any case, what I wanted to show, if I get rid of this small piece here, you can just have the school name. Now, this is our demo name. You can see here it's just Veracross Academy, but you could choose the demo name and you can even choose its color. You can even choose its color here by coming over here. You can make it look like something crazy. Well, we'll see. Maybe it's not. But anyway, you can see that how that would work as well. So you have that option. I'm going to go ahead and just put something's in here. Now, let's refresh this. Seems like there's a bug of some sort. I'll leave it as it is, and I'll just put in the other one. We'll overwrite it anyway. All right, so we're back. Let's work on tickets. So that's really quick branding, right? Just a couple things at the top, brand it to the event registration you have going on. The next thing is, if we come in here, you can see we're gonna come down to our event, and we have to set up the tickets as part of each event. And when we get to, you might say, well, why can't we create the same tickets across all in one go? You will see that more on Thursday because there will be cases where you actually we make it so that you can essentially have different types of signups for different types of events, especially when you're doing, say, like an alumni weekend or something where there are different things going on. So let's go ahead and go into one, and I'll show you how to build a ticket. So tickets get built if I go into the event. Oh, by the way, sorry, I'm gonna go back. One common thing is people will click here and then like they'll go to the event and not know, oh shoot, where's my tickets? Or am I supposed to do tickets? You don't click into the event, you click into the actual event registration here on the right-hand side, and then you see the place where you put in tickets. I'm going to put in a couple tickets. I'm going to put in a couple normal tickets. I'm going to go back and remind what we had. So we had an adult, a senior, child under 10. So let me show you how to do that. So first of all, we have 3, so I'm going to add 3. Default, this will be standard senior under 10. So I'm giving them names. I'm also going to give them a sort key. Going to give them a sort key. Then I'm going to give them a rate. Maybe standard is 25, senior is 15, and children under 10 or 5, something like that. And if I update this now, and then I update and I refresh here, you can see how immediately this starts to show up here. And so that if I'm signing up, I just chose one standard ticket, but we're not done yet. So we put in some prices, we put in 3 tickets by adding them here. We also have to decide sort of the parameters of the sign up. So you can see, first of all, we might want to put in a maximum registration per quantity per registration. So I'm going to put 5. 5 is going to be the maximum you can do. And I'm also, if I have a maximum capacity for my event, I need to be smart about that. And therefore, what you're going to need to do is decide, do I have an overall capacity? Do I have a specific ticket capacity? So for instance, let's say I can only sell 200 standard, 100 senior, 100 kids. This would ensure that as people sign up and they choose their 3s and 4s and 1s and 2s, that particular ticket can't go above that total quantity amount. In addition, in a case like this, you may also need a general total capacity, meaning across tickets, you can only have so many. And that's what this one is up here, maximum capacity. So if I do something like 250, that means that between these 3 tickets, it can never go above 250 in total. So, in this case, that might be seats in an auditorium, but you can imagine that if you have an alumni event too, you may also have certain limitations on the size or the event or whatever it happens to be. And you can use these fields here to control that. Next, we're going to do things like discount codes and stuff like that on Thursday, but I'm going to go ahead and update this now. You can also put in a contact email address. So I'm just going to test that email. What this does is that on our sign up, you can see this little mail. And if you click on it, it would open up my email and go to that email. So you can kind of give them a contact info there. So that's how to add tickets. So you need to go in. I'll show this one more time. We'll go a little bit faster here. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Go back into our registration form. Now I have tickets here, but I don't have tickets here. So I'm going to go in and add 3. Sort key, 1, 2, 3. 25, 15, I forget what I did, 5 maybe. And then standard. Children under 10. I'm putting a maximum. What if I don't here? What if I do that? Just show you how it is different. And I'll actually leave the capacities blank for now, which means basically unlimited capacity. So now if we go back and we refresh, we can now see we have these both. And you can see that all of these are going to only allow me to do 5 at a time. This one I added as 3, so you can get a sense of how that works there. And so you can, and I could go through and add the final 2 sessions if I wanted to, but I won't, so we can move on. So let's go back. The next thing I want to show you, as far as getting this set up, is you're going to want to add some custom instructions and text throughout your workflow. And so there's a couple ways you can do that. First of all is instructions. If I go to instructions, each one of these boxes is going to correspond to the boxes or the pages, or at least the first 5, are going to go to the pages of your workflow. So this event selection, page 1, that's this. If I put in something like, please sign up for our spring musical below, and I update, come down here and refresh, you're going to see this here. Now, just one really quick note, I have seen a few schools over time try to literally put like over a page or 2 of text here, like basically a whole super long list of instructions. this can go pretty long. It can probably go the equivalent of like a single word doc. Um, I don't know the specific characters or word limit or whatnot, but it can't do pages. It can't do pages. And what you should do, because you can actually use, if you know some simple HTML, like bold, italic, link, you actually can do that in the instructions. Now that goes a bit beyond, I always have to look it up online. I have to go to Google and say, link HTML, and then it will give me the markup, and then I figure out how to put it in. But my advice is if you really need pages, because maybe you're signing up for a trip, and the trip has a multi-page document of instructions and terms and various things, host the PDF so that it's downloadable, and then use a link, HTML link in your instructions to then link out to that document. But what I do see quite often is simple HTML like bold and italic, so that if there is a 2 or 3 paragraphs of instruction here about what you're expecting folks to do, you're calling attention, greater attention to the instructions. So feel free to use that. And if you just go to Google and say simple HTML, you'll find something online that tells you how to do those few things. Okay. So that's instructions. And you'll probably want to do that, a little bit of that on each page. Sometimes, like, even though technically you could put an email here, I see folks put like if you have questions, here's the person and email to contact. There are things like that I see done here. If you're signing up if you're using the sign up here, not for, say, a musical, but maybe like off-campus exam signups. That's one I see a lot. Or trips. You're going to have more detail, and you're going to want to annotate along the way so that parents or whoever's doing the signups really know what you need them to know. All right, so that's instructions. I'll point out here that it does, when they finish their sign up, it does send them an email with the things they've signed up with. You can add some school-specific text here in the email. And that goes right here in these instructions, the confirmation email text. All right, the next thing is that depending on the type of sign up, you actually might have you might want to override whether it's a step or, and I'm actually blanking on a good example here, but depending on different signups, well, maybe we'll use this. Like if this was an exam sign, I might actually say exams here or something like that. But the idea is you can come over here, you come down to custom text, and then you have your buttons on each page that you can override. And there's 2 that you can override. One is here, up here. The other is the actual button. So it's like the step number here, and button. So let's do this. So what if I say select exams? Again, that doesn't go with our example, but just to give you a sense of why you might change it. See here how it says select exams. So you might want to say that if the list below is actually a list of off-campus exams you're having folks sign up for. I'll go ahead and put it back. Select show times. Go ahead and do that. And then what if I want to say, instead of register, what if I just want to say next down here? So if I come back here and I say next, there you go. So, give that some thought as you're doing this. You may be able to just keep it at our defaults, but if you want to change it, you have that option. And each one of the pages both has like the name of the step and the button. And you do that here on custom text. All right, so we've done instructions and we've done custom text. There is something here, we won't see it, but I just want to call attention to it. So custom status text. So this here is essentially if either your events are all full or somebody gets to the URL after the events are in the past, because the events will only allow signups if they're not in the past. and you want to show a message, if you want to show a message other than this event registration is closed, I think it's something just like that. It's this registration is closed. If you don't put something in here, but if you do, you could say something like all events are in the past. Please reach out to, you could have a contact or something if you thought that you wanted people to reach out because maybe they somehow ended up on an old one and maybe there's a new one. But you have that control. You can choose what the closed text looks like. And like I said, we're going to do discounts on Thursday. All right. So now we have a pretty simple form. What I'd like to do now, for our last 2 or 3 features is sorry, this is ours. What I want to do is I want to actually I'm going to turn temporarily, I'm going to turn payment off. Or I'm actually going to do later, allow later. Refresh it. You always have to refresh it if you've made a configuration change to make sure it knows about that configuration change. And so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to walk through this, and then we're going to see where the data goes. We're going to see where the data goes when you sign up. And from there, we'll get to talk about a few things before the end. And of course, we're going to do more advanced features on Thursday. So I'm going to go through here. I'm going to choose one senior ticket. Register as a guest. I'm going to pay later. So it's going to let me finish the entire registration because I can choose pay later. If by the way, it wouldn't allow you to do that. You would only be able to pay if it was just the payment type was just credit card or credit card ACH. So I'm going to say pay later, confirm registration. Done. And just like the other pages, you may want to put some, maybe change done to thank you for your sign up. Maybe you put some instructions on next steps. But you can add those to the end of your workflow by coming to here, the success message, and even the maybe not, maybe just the instruction. The success message is what you're able to do there. And so we'll come back here. We did this. Now, where does it go? So if you have people signing up, where does this information go? First of all, you can see it on the submissions page. The submissions page is there to capture really one of two things. It could be people who have gone all the way and confirmed, but they haven't paid. And you can see that. It's important to note that the way that Veracross was built in this case, what that means if you are well, actually, it doesn't matter. Regardless of whether you are allowing somebody to pay later or pay online, if somebody gets all the way to the end and then doesn't pay, it still creates a submission. It's just a not completed submission. Now, why is that important to know? It's important to know because if you're not prepared for that, you might think that it's just a bunch of noise in here. Like, oh, why is it including? The reason we chose to do that was actually to give you some detail on people who got all the way to the end and then just didn't pull the trigger, right? They didn't finish didn't follow through. So it does give you that. Now, what I did is I completed it. So it's not like I didn't press the last confirm button. So it says like it would say incomplete if I hadn't done that. But it also is telling me that I need to pay later. So what this is telling you or somebody sitting at the ticket box in this particular scenario is they are going to need to, as folks come through, they're going to need to say, oh, Chaz was supposed to buy one ticket here, and Chaz is supposed to buy a ticket. and he owes us $20. And then once we're done, we're going to click payment received. We're going to click payment received. So you do get this in sorry, I just noticed there was a question that I didn't have the chat open, so I will come back to that, Sherry. Thank you. Um, uh, so this is helpful for tracking who have we captured payment. They signed up, but we need to capture payment. So the second thing is, so that's one place the data goes. The second place the data goes is it actually goes into the event. So if I go into, I hope I'm clicking on the right one. I guess I will see when I get there. If I go into this one, the 1 to 3 p.m., and I come down to tickets sold, you'll see that Chaz here bought one ticket, standard ticket. If I had bought multiple, I'd actually have multiple lines here where I bought, one standard for 25 and maybe two children tickets for a total of 10. So you're able to see that here on the event, so you can get a list of all the tickets purchased. You also have this idea, not class attendance, sorry, event attendance. It's also is going to confirm here, like, who are the people that went through the sign up, and it's going to add them to the event attendance tab. Now that's powerful for a few different reasons. One reason is that by adding them to this page, you start to create communication lists off of the people who have confirmed. So if I come up to communication on my event, you're going to actually see that I now have an email confirmed. And again, I'm not quite sure why this isn't showing up. This should say, let's see if I can. May still be just working through. Let it refresh. Well, you'd have a send email button here, so that you could easily click that for the two people that had confirmed and send them an email. So that, if you're trying to send some form of communication around an event that's going to happen to only the people that were confirmed, perfect. Like, you have that here. It's adding them. It's creating a list for communication based on the event attendance detail. And as we'll see on Thursday, when we actually talk about how to invite specific people and then register who has and hasn't actually confirmed, that even becomes more helpful, because then you can go back out to only the people that didn't sign up. Say everyone's supposed to sign up for a trip, or everyone's supposed to sign up for an exam. You can just go and send an email to just the folks who didn't sign up. So that gets really helpful. So that's the communication story. And then the other thing, I actually just sort of shared it ahead of time, is that if you put people on this list ahead of time and then use that list to be the way that you invite folks to sign up, you can sort of say, okay, we invited 200 people and we had these people actually come in and confirm, right? It creates sort of a more robust attendance scenario. All right. So let's take stock of where we've done, of what we've done, because I've covered pretty much what I consider the sort of the beginner to intermediate features. And there's going to be a bunch of good fun features we'll go through on Thursday around discounts and around donations. Inviting people that you want, as opposed to just sending out a link. There's going to be a bunch of things that we go through there. We'll talk about the parent signing up for their student, which is a really powerful thing. So before we end and start thinking about whether you have any questions, because we have time for that, is just to remember all the way at the beginning how you start. You start on the Calendars homepage. You start by hovering over Add, by clicking Publish a Form, and then using this interface, these features, these fields right here, adding the events down here and going into them to put in the tickets if it is ticket-based. and other details like your instructions and custom text on the left. It's once you've done it a handful of times, it's very straightforward. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pause here and take questions, and then and let everyone go. There's a good question here. Thank you, Sherry, asking about if you host images on a portal screen, will public non-VC users have difficulties? Generally, what schools should do is you want to use your public website, whether it's Digistorm or Finalsite or whatever it is. You want to use your public website to host a picture so that it's available to everyone. If you somehow uploaded it into a Veracross portal, yeah, that would require it might actually somehow direct them to a login or just not load, because everything in the portal is behind a login. Now if you search the documentation, this isn't like product approved. Folks have come up with a workaround to use Veracross Composer as a way to host images in a public way. It's actually documented, so you can find it if you just typed like host photos on Composer or something like that. You will find it, and that would be a way if you didn't think you could use your public website, your CMS to do it, you find a workaround in Veracross. And then thank you for your other question about sort of the broad concept for the workflows. Yes, this is great. Get your events in first. That's absolutely the first thing. Get your events in, make the registration page like I did here, add some of the high level information up at the top, and then link in your events down here. And then from there, once you've added it and you have a few of the things up top and you've linked it to the events, everything else you can just click around and configure. And then to your point, inviting folks would be the very end, right? You would get your form to where you want it to be. You already have your event. The event is tied into your registration form. Then you can go and invite folks to the event. And we will talk more about invites on Thursday. I will say that sort of the assumption behind what I showed today is that you're literally just taking the URL that you have here once you have an event and you're just sending it somewhere. But there is a more targeted way you can do that we'll talk about on Thursday. If you say like I've pre-added 200 people to my event, and now I just want to invite those 200 people to sign up. That's a different workflow. But generally, you can just take this URL right here and send it out in an email or link it somewhere from your website or Veracross or whatever you want to do, and anyone can just click on it and start signing up. All right, so if you have to hop off, that's fine. You can get a few minutes back. Otherwise, I will stick around for another minute or two for questions. So I'd love to see you on Thursday. Thanks for your time.
Can I ask one more quick one?
Sure.
This thing about image hosting, and it's been a bane for me in terms of the portals as well and different communications. The Veracross method, it'd be like, hey, everybody who has an event, you're a high school division head, train them to use this event registration form. But most like, and like the Veracross idea of a lot of hands in the pie in order to run a school. But when you don't provide a place for image hosting separate of an external website, even if that's Digistorm or whatever partnered, then it puts the onus on a single or a handful of people that have access to the public website in order to get those images up there. Is there ever like a Pendo feature? Or, I mean, I'm sure a million people are begging for Veracross to have an image hosting area where I don't have to trick it. You get what I'm after. It's like, say I want to teach my high school principal or his admin secretary to create an event registration. If they can't put up their images, it falls back to the administrator. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I have a couple of thoughts on that. I'll answer the question, but then also just a small editorial. Yes, eventually Veracross, we have plans. And it's at this point it's been like a multi-year plan, but we have plans to add additional hosting directly in Axiom for things like this. There have been when we started on a path, probably 2 years ago, there were a good 6 to 8 very large projects that we had to accomplish on our infrastructure before we could even build a feature to support it.
Mhm.
But we're still going down that path. It's almost like something that like when it comes up, we'll all of a sudden just have it because we will have done all the things to support it. So yes, we want to do that. We want it to be a feature. We're going to support it. I don't have a timeline yet. There's just been a lot we've needed to do on specifically around our file infrastructure before we were ready to support in Axiom. And in fact, there may even be the first 2 or 3 areas in Axiom that might actually allow it. I'm trying to remember if that's true or not, but I think we may be, at a place where we're able to start adding it selectively. I guess the only other thing I would add there, just based on what I've seen from some schools, and I'm sure this is not all schools, is that if the school does have a very tight control on branding and assets that get used and specific items, what I have seen some schools do is essentially put links, sort of like a library of usable sort of approved assets for things like this. And that's one way I've seen some schools sort of get around it because everyone is kind of going off the same library of approved assets. But again, I know that's not going to make sense for everybody, but figured I'd mention it. But yeah, we are going to do that. I just don't know when.
No, that's really good. It's a good way to think about it. I appreciate it.
Mhm. All right. Well, hope to see you on Thursday. Have a great day.